Luke, the gospel writer, helps us see some very important truths in life. I hope you're reading through that portion, what Pastor Annie just read, and you're contemplating that right now. There are so many wonderful ways that we are touched by what Luke says. Remember with me what's going on in the life of the Messiah and the first faith followers. They have been in a season of their life. And you heard what Pastor Annie just read at the very start of that passage as they were headed toward Jerusalem. Now, we don't know exactly where they were, but we get a little clue. They were nearly 40, maybe 50 miles south of Nazareth. Nazareth is the little teeny village where Jesus was raised. He was the son of a carpenter from Nazareth. Jesus, the Messiah, and all of those first faith followers are making their way across from a region, a part of the territory that was foreign to them. In fact, they were considered foreigners as they were over in the other parts of the land, what we know as Persia or some other parts on the eastern side of the Sea of Galilee. They had crossed the Sea of Galilee several times. Now they are over on the western side of the Sea of Galilee, and they are making their way over an imaginary boundary. The boundary of Galilee to the north and Samaria to the south. So Jesus and the first faith followers are finding their way into very small villages, the same villages that the Messiah sent the disciples out in twos. The very same villages. He was sending them out to prepare those villages. So it's not a mistake that there was a group of people that had been set aside that had heard about the Messiah. That group of people, we are told from what Pastor Annie just read, they were set aside primarily because something was different about them. They were defined as lepers. We don't have very many colonies or groups of lepers, but we have various groups in Hays, do we not? I witnessed yesterday afternoon as I was getting ready for the wedding at 4 o'clock, I witnessed a group of people that were not lepers, but they were identifiable by the color of shirts that they were wearing as they entered the golden queue. They were wearing purple shirts. Not lepers, but they were, I think they may have been K-Staters, not lepers. We identify ourselves by a variety of means these days. Some of those individuals in the Messiah's time period were identified by an illness that they had, by a situation in their life. It's not a whole lot different than what we identify people as. The kind of clothes they wear, the amount of tattoos they may have on their arms or on their legs. Maybe we characterize people by things such as gender orientation. Maybe we characterize people by the way they clap their hands when they sing a praise song. Maybe we identify people in some unusual ways. In Jesus' era, in the Messiah's era, there was a defining moment for the lepers. People were told to stay away from those groups or colonies of lepers. Not much was completely understood about colonies of lepers, but you might catch whatever they had. So this group of a colony of lepers had been somewhere right around that imaginary border of Samaria and Galilee, and they heard that the Messiah, this wise one, this rabbi, this healer of body and soul and spirit was near. And here he comes. So Jesus of Nazareth, Son of David, have mercy on us." To that exclamation, the Messiah answered, "You are healed. Go and show yourselves to the priests. Go and show yourselves to those of authority. Go prove what has happened to you." And so the 10 turned away. And as was dramatized by the United Methodist Youth Fellowship this morning, they turned away and they went. After they received their snowball from serves, they went away. Those 10 lepers went away. Only one returned. And he was a foreigner. He was from Samaria. And Jesus says to that individual, "You who are not from here, you have returned. Your faith has made you well." This morning, you and I may not be a colony of lepers. We may not be a colony of K-Staters. We are a colony. We are a group of people loving on God. I want to help. Would you help me say thank you to the children who helped love God this morning? Thank you, kids. Thank you so much. You have helped us love God. We can learn something from those people who are not exactly like us. We can learn something. There seems to be several items from this particular passage from the gospel writer Luke, but there's two primary things that I see as paramount in our living. Some of us are blinded by the very things that are right in front of us. Outsiders or insiders are blinded at times. Maybe you are on the outside of something. Maybe you're on the inside. Undoubtedly, you or I have been blinded. Blinded by the things that are right there in front of us. I'm reminded of the family called Rittenhouse. I heard about them a year ago. They were on vacation somewhere up in the area of Utah. They are from Nebraska, and they were traveling on I-80. The Rittenhouse family was tooling along when all of a sudden they saw an eastbound car going on I-80, and a suitcase fell off of that eastbound car. The Rittenhouse family turned off of the highway and went back to the suitcase. Inside of the suitcase, there wasn't any identification of where that suitcase came from, whose it was. There was only one $20 gold coin. And on that gold coin was inscribed, "To Otis Sampson, upon his retirement from the Portland Cement Company." That's all they had to go by. So when they got back home after their vacation was over, they contacted the Portland Cement Company. "Who is Otis Sampson? Where does he live?" And they found out. So they began a correspondence with Otis Sampson. And the Rittenhouse family decided that they would see if they could get that suitcase and all of its contents back to its owner. Mr. Sampson finally replied, "You can dispose or disregard of the suitcase and all of its contents except for that gold coin. It is my most priceless possession." And that's exactly what they did. The Rittenhouse family decided they would send that gold coin back to Mr. Otis Sampson, and away it went, with a cover letter from Reverend Rittenhouse. And that cover letter said, "Mr. Sampson, I hope you find your most priceless possession, but I want to tell you of another priceless possession. It is God. Through the Messiah, you can find a priceless possession." They never heard back from Mr. Sampson until Christmas of last year.